So this might be a weird sort of video. I know people are talking about this topic now, but I don't really talk about things like this that much. But I just figured I'd mention what I saw and what I felt because I think it is a very valid thing. So I went into the city, New York City, for those of you who don't live in the tri-state area, and I went last weekend for a convention that was in town that I went to in the past and I haven't been back to, and I haven't really been back to the city at all actually in 5 years since the pandemic or whatever you want to call it. And I noticed a difference in the homeless in the city. So before, it's not like the one time I've been to LA where I was basically almost attacked by a homeless person for no reason and shoulder checked by homeless people, and there's a lot of mentally ill people on the streets of California, and we don't have any mental asylums anymore or orphanages, which I'll get into that topic eventually. But there's a lot of people who go to California specifically to be homeless because of the incentives California offers, and they give them free drugs, they give them a stipend to live on the streets, and then their governor, Gavin Newsom, wants to pretend to do something and go out and knock down homeless encampments, but really he's the one enabling the problem. But that aside, New York wasn't like that for the most part. I mean, the homeless, the most you'd have to do is maybe not get into a subway car because of the stench of one of the homeless people. Or if they ask you for money, you can just politely say no. And for the most part, they're not going to bother you. There were some odd times of just people on the subway who wanted money after, trying to sell candy or just wanted money or something. And as long as you don't really hold eye contact with them, it's not a problem. But it's different now. I know a lot has happened in the city. A lot of people have left. But it's like an air of sadness in the city that I didn't feel before. And I think it has something to do with all the 5G that's out there too. Because out here, back in 2019, when everybody was stuck in the house forcibly and parks were being closed and people weren't allowed to be outside in nature and fresh air, my town did put up one 5G tower that I know of. I haven't seen any more. In my part of town, at least, it's one maybe 2 or 3 miles from my home. And I feel like I do kind of feel the effects, but I also have a lot of plants that I try to plant, which the plants haven't really been working out this summer, but it seems like that's a worldwide thing, according to the gardeners I follow on YouTube in their comment sections. But not going into that too much. The 5G, when I was on the train going into the city, I started feeling sick, I started feeling dizzy, and I was wondering if it's just because I haven't been out. Or out in a while, maybe it was nerves or something. But no, it was like every few feet, as further you got into the city, every 2 or 3 feet, apartment buildings, billboards, trees, colleges, and it wasn't just one tower, it would be a tower, and then it would be 4 little modules of 5G on the corners of apartments, and this and that. And I was saying to myself, are these people okay out here? Are they being fried alive? Do they even feel it anymore? And I just had that feeling like, they've been a lot of predictive programming with Civil War movie and Red Dawn, I think, or something, and like Escape New York. And anyway, where I live, it's going to be underwater soon. But then again, the middle of the country is going to be underwater as well soon. So, it's a thing that people know of. New York City's been sinking. That's been going on for years. I don't think they're really addressing it. And it's not like climate change like they keep trying to talk about. It's just a natural thing that's happening. And as for where I live, it's a natural thing, and it's also a prophecy that it's going to be underwater. I don't know if it's going to be 20 or 30 years from now, but it is going to sink, and I do plan on leaving as soon as I can. But anyway, just going to the city, I was observing all the 5G. I have some footage of it. The trains are crap. There's still cameras in the trains, which I forgot about, so I was surveilled the whole time I was sitting in the seat without my permission. And the windows are crap, they're not clean. There was water coming in them. I forgot about all that because I haven't been out, and again, in the city for like 5 years. And before that, I worked in the city. I went to school in the city, I went to college in the city, I had internships. I was going to live out there until some things happened, and I ended up back home. Ironically, before the pandemic stuff started. Um, so I guess I wasn't meant to be out there, but a lot of my favorite places, a lot of my favorite food places closed during the pandemic. I went to one of the places that was open, which is in Koreatown. It was open early morning when I got out there, and I wanted to get some. It's like anpan. It's called. It's a red bean paste bun. They're usually made fresh, and it's like they can't be shipped or anything because it's perishable. That and like mochi, those sort of things. I really love those. And stores out here, even if they do have Asian groceries now and like stuff, they don't really have those sort of fresh things. So I went to go grab that. And the homeless, it's a lot of homeless people. It's a lot of buildings that are closed that when I was last out there, they were open and they were booming. Even if it was like the middle of January, people were going into a party city, and now that's closed. And the streets are fairly empty in the morning. They used to be very empty when I used to go out there, but that was like not midtown. Like I worked on the east end um, of Manhattan, and I went to school downtown, um, below 14th Street. So that's primarily where I was years ago, below 14th Street. And then when I worked out there, I was on the east side of Manhattan, and I used to hang out a lot by Central Park too. And I went out to Brooklyn occasionally. And usually going to work, Midtown was always busy. But then as I got closer, further away, of course, from Times Square and stuff, and closer to the east side, there wouldn't be that many people on the streets. And sometimes I was the only one. And it was still, it's a big city, but it was still safe back then. It wasn't like, I felt like, I mean, maybe one or two times, but for the most part, it's like I didn't feel like I was going to be attacked or like anybody was following me, because it was, especially since it was the business section. So I was in a blazer and stuff, and I basically blended in with everybody else. But this, I was going to the store I was going to in Koreatown, and it was actually right before I was just about to get to that store. And if for those of you who aren't from New York or don't know this, um, streets streets are shorter than avenues, so maybe an avenue is comprised of like the length of like three or four streets. So I turned onto this one avenue, which is just before where I needed to go, and then I just had to go up one street, and I would have been there. And there was this man. There were three or four homeless people, and I was watching the reactions of the homeless and the people walking by the homeless, because I just felt very uneasy when I was on the street, which I didn't really feel before Midtown before. It was like I would be uneasy, but it's just like I need to watch my bag because I don't want to be in crowds. I don't want somebody to pickpocket me or try to target me because they think I have money. Whereas this, this was like, I don't want a homeless to attack me. And I've never felt that way before, because again, the homeless were never that aggressive in New York. It wasn't a thing back when I was working and commuting. So there was this guy. It was between halfway and the end of the street, the avenue, and he clocked me as soon as I stepped on the block. And I was like, oh gosh, he's going to be a problem. So I was just walking. I had passed a few, again, there was like three or four homeless people, including that guy. One of them didn't react, which is, normal. But one of the other ones, as I got towards the end of the street, he actually did open his eyes when I was maybe a foot in front of him, and there were people who were very close to him, and he didn't open their eyes. He didn't stare at me, he just had his eyes flown open, like he was startled awake. But this other guy who had been watching me, he didn't say anything to me, and I made sure to get a wide breath away from him, because I'm like, he's going to be a problem, he's going to try to throw something at me. It was just my intuition. I just felt that way. I just felt overwhelmingly strong, like he was going to try to harm me if I got too close to him. So I made sure I gave him a wide breath. And sure enough, when I gave the wide breath, he started cursing at me under his breath and muttering these awful things at me. And I was like, okay, I made the right decision. And I didn't look back because I felt like he was watching me still. And I was like, let me just get to the store and get the hell out of here. But it was just that weird vibe. And it's not all the homeless people, but forgive me for saying this. Do you know how people call alcohol spirits? And there's been a fentanyl problem that's been literally facilitated by the quote unquote powers that be. I mean, it's not like a conspiracy theory. You can like check out Redacted's YouTube channel or just, I think, congressional hearings, facilitating trafficking and drugs into this country. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go into that too much, but basically, spirits. There's a lot of sadness in New York. When I was leaving the convention center, I'm gonna veer back to what I'm talking about. But when I was leaving the convention center, I seen there's like these dilapidated buildings encased by cage, which it's been like that for years. And I don't remember them being that dilapidated, but it's like a train station underneath. And I was wondering how many people are living in the train stations, because I know people live underground in the train stations, because it's all kinds of stations that are brand new, that have never been used, that have been here for centuries. I mean, all of the train stations are very old. And the subways are literally underground railroads. That's what a underground railroad is. It's a subway. We had a transit system. We used to have a trolley in the city too, back in the day. And they got rid of that so they can have buses and then whine about the buses and pollution, and install bike lanes and then whine about the pedestrians eating on the curb. Whatever. Basically, with all the fentanyl and all the drugs and stuff, and all the alcohol, it opens yourself up to spirits and being promiscuous. I'm not trying to judge people for how they want to live their life. You can live how you want, but I'm just saying that is the matter of fact of things. It opens yourself up to spirits, and there are a lot of spirits wandering New York City. There are a lot of awful things in the air, and these spirits, if you are drunk, if you are high, if you are having multiple sexual partners, if you have a really bad attitude, if you're desperate, they will try to take control of you. In addition to, the dilapidated building I was talking about, somebody was living in the dilapidated buildings. There was pillows and stuff, and it was right in full view of the convention. And in addition to that, I actually seen somebody wrote on the walls of a church that is right by the convention center, right by where I saw the homeless, presumed homeless, living in the old building. I saw somebody write that I have been sentenced to life in prison with no parole, and they wrote that in a Sharpie. I didn't take a picture because I was trying to hustle back home, and it just disturbed me. I was like, what? Like, there wasn't shit like this going on back when I was in the city. I would have noticed. I was out there day and night, all kinds of hours. And it's like people just crying out for help. And there's a lot of hopelessness in the city, and it doesn't help that the quote unquote migrants, which are now invading my area as well, because again, I'm like an hour and a half away from the city. And please, people, stop saying that New Yorkers voted for this. Nobody voted for this. Nobody wanted the current governor. Nobody wants all this strife. We're not all idiots like the news portrays. And people are fighting back. People in my town are fighting back. Local agencies are fighting back. And I can't really get into it, but it's a lot of bad things happening. People are even leaving my town. People are selling their homes because they've been so fed up. They're all coming together trying to stop this. It's not just ordinary people. There are a lot of things at play everywhere across this country and everywhere in the world. I just wanted to say, basically, just be careful out there. But I just wanted to put it out there. Just be careful if you have a strange feeling in these cities, big cities, small cities. I think it's everywhere at this point. It's just the way the world is right now. And it's not going to get any better, I don't think. Like, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm just being real. There are a lot of strange things going on in this world. It very well is the end times. There are a lot of supernatural things, and I keep seeing, I'm going to make a video on it. I keep seeing things about people talking about dinosaurs coming back, and dinosaur tracks on beaches and stuff, frequently traveled beaches. And dinosaurs are just dragons. They changed that word in 1840, I believe. So, I mean, all these creatures, all these creatures that weren't in this realm anymore, or were being suppressed are coming back. All of these spirits, all these things from the Bible books that you haven't read that your church is hiding from you, all of these things are coming back for one last fight. And I don't think a lot of people are ready. I'm not ready for all this nonsense. It's a little overwhelming, but I just want to let people know, if you have a bad feeling about someone on the street, just cross the street. Just get out of their way. You don't have to feel like you're doing something wrong, trying to protect yourself. But let me know your thoughts. Have you had any similar experiences? And I will catch you guys again soon.